Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about an incredibly strange occurrence that can happen in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign that can really shock you and your players, right? That we now know about because of our IRL situation. Here's the question. What happens when the Cataclysm of your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign solves a whole bunch of problems that the heroes were trying to solve but failed, but the Cataclysm solved the problem? All right, let's get into it. All right, so how did this happen? Oh boy, we got a weird situation. This pandemic, man, it just keeps unpacking the bizarre, right? So, okay, hear it out. So we've been trying to lower our carbon footprint as a nation, America, right? So this is for America, right? And this would be for your American 5e game. By the way, I say a lot of stuff. If I don't say it, I'm always talking about America. I just don't know the international world, and that's not what my channel's about. My channel's about American D&D and American IRL and how they link, right? So in America, we had this situation where, before the pandemic, we were like, oh man, we're in big trouble with this climate change. We got to get our footprint down. Everybody's got to buy an electric car. You got to eat hummus and stop eating cheeseburgers. And everybody got to get their carbon footprint down, right? Pandemic hits. Carbon footprint on virtually everybody in America goes through the floor. So people stop traveling, right? So get this. Your fossil fuel car, you might have drove it once a week now in the middle of the pandemic. And guess what? Millions of workers can keep their fossil fuel car because they drive it 1/10 of what they normally do because they ain't got no more commute. They're right now, okay, New York. People pay attention to New York because what's happening there is going to happen in 20, 30, 50, 100 cities across the United States of America. And they're saying, guess what? People ain't coming back, right? They're wondering how many people will come back to the offices. Will it be 25%? Will it be a third? Will it be 50%? And a lot of people are saying not even half the people who worked in New York are going to return, right? Many have already moved to smaller towns, right? And guess what? Because there's no more commute, the carbon footprint has dropped through the floor. Right? So, like, they're, typical American family, right? Not even married anymore. Let's say you got, two divorced parents, and the child flies to one of the parents in another state once a month, right? That's gone. Like, all that stuff went away in the pandemic, and travel went through the floor. It was almost non-existent. Okay? So you have major changes. And Americans massively lowered their carbon footprint, doing everything that had been asked of them, but not doing it on purpose. But now we already know for a fact that this is going to change how Americans react and what Americans do in their travels and in how they use their fossil fuel cars, right? So even if most Americans keep their fossil fuel cars, we're still light years ahead of where we were because travel is almost certainly never going to return to the same levels of travel it did before because people are just terrified of traveling the way they were, right? And it's highly likely, right, that one of the issues of pandemic is people are just not going to travel, not going to go out of their way to meet new people, be far less contact oriented, be far less likely to make friends, be friends, to function as friends, right? And more isolationism, one player board games, one player video games, all this stuff is going to go through the roof, right? So the reality is the Cataclysm solved the problems the heroes were trying to solve. So what do you do when this happens in your Dungeons & Dragons game? Well, for one, you may want to explore putting it there, right? And we also really need to think again about the dragon, right? It's Dungeons and Dragons, right? Is the dragon as dangerous as we thought, right? Is it possible that when the dragon comes, and burns the village to the ground, it may solve 50 problems we never expected, right? We really need to rethink the dragon in Dungeons & Dragons. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you going to think about this? What if the Cataclysm solves the problem your heroes are trying to solve? Love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.